Hello, and welcome back to my HOI4 Let's Play series. This is Northstar. Hope you're well, taking care of each other, and being kind to yourselves. For those who have not checked this out before, the series is on my YouTube channel, where it's in chronological order from oldest videos to newest. I also branched off into a multiplayer series in 1940 instead of 4 years of early-ish to early mid-games to mid-game pick up as things are somewhat far along. But Joe, he'll be taking over England. Here things are entirely different. I'm facing impossible odds to Syria. War with both the Soviets, although they'll be crushed by the United States North American Alliance, which is at war with the Soviets, and at war with the North American Alliance. This is a hopeless situation, but I'll fight as hard as I can. Maybe through AI and competence I'll somehow pull it off. I doubt it. But the story doesn't end there. Just as the revolution lives on in our hearts and minds, people may think socialism is dead. They may say that, Marx was wrong, even though actually history has shown he was very much right, since most of what he wrote is about how capitalism is flawed and self-destructive, and that is proven correct. He didn't write about how it would be changed. That was Lenin, and Lenin was wrong about many things, about how you could come to a solution. Lenin's solutions didn't always work, let's put it that way, but never. Just not always. Were flawed. Could lead to a society that wasn't very democratic in the end. I'm a democratic socialist, so I'm sure some of you hate that, but I follow my conscience. I follow where the facts lead. Yes, the facts, and I do not want to go on the long list of capitalist atrocities. They're far worse and far more numerous than socialist ones. All that socialism has to be the way the future is to be better than capitalism, and that's a low bar. Capitalism is horrid. People just aren't aware of the scope. They don't study as widely and as deep in history as I do. Some people know about this bad thing or that. They know about the Indonesian genocide or the Guatemalan genocide. They know about, the Nazis really deeply. I've made it my goal to learn very deeply about as many things as I can, and being, before I got long COVID, someone who functioned at the high genius level, I was able to integrate information very, very quickly, and I still have that knowledge even if I can't learn as quick anymore because I have long COVID and it affects my brain. Anyways, I'm not pretending though entirely the good guys here. Although Syria brings up interesting things. Assad, who was a neoliberal, he was like the Pinochet of Russia, if that makes sense. Pinochet was a neoliberal dictator, and the CIA put in power in Chile, overthrew an elected government. Brutal, authoritarian. Assad took over from his father, which was betrayal of the Republican principles of socialist Syria. Before that, Islamic socialists, so not very Marxist fully, but semi-Marxist state. So that was a betrayal, and then he proceeded to go in the direction of neoliberalism and tear up all the socialist gains that had been made in Syria. And people hated him for that, and he was also racist and favored certain groups while oppressing others. People hate him for that, and so there was an uprising, and Russia sided with Assad, and then we tried to identify him with the socialism of his father, so we could say, this is people rebelling against socialism. No, this is people rebelling in favor of socialism. I recognized, even before I learned all the history of this, that it didn't make sense what the U.S. government and its corporate media was saying, because, and that was all lies, obviously, because there are a lot of anarchists and socialists that are fighting against Assad. Reason why is because he went the direction of neoliberalism. I highly recommend reading If We Burn. It talks about Arab Spring. It talks about the protest movements. It's now getting to Italy, Spain, and Greece after the 2008 financial meltdown. So starting 2010, mass protests, 2010, 2011 to 2020. It's a very important decade. It's very useful to read about. Anyways, Syria should fall. I'll pick another socialist country. I may even decide to try and flip one. Karelia could be a option. It's neutral. It's communist. There's the Catalonian Republic. But my options are pretty limited. There's the Czech rump state that was remaining after the Central Powers conquered them. More territory might be liberated back to them, but their focus here will probably be a lot unless in the multiplayer game, if this happens, the UK can roll in and force ideology, create another Czech, and it'll just merge and that'll unlock the focus tree. I could play as the UK. That's probably the best option. Of course, if they fall, there'll be very, very, very few options left. So, because they're also a big prize for their opponents, so I'll have to play well if I play as them. The resistance continues. Anyways, I'm working on justifying on Jordan. I've got, it looks like 40 days left till my invasion of Jordan commences. I'll occupy them. That'll give me a little more manpower. They haven't really raised any army, so there's a ton of manpower. What they've raised is just some ships. They'll probably join the North American Alliance. Their ships will sail off and join the Americans, so that will hurt me a little, but I'll have factories, I'll have manpower. That will help a little bit in defying the US, although probably just lead to the, Jordan permanently being a faction after. Then there's the invasions of Lebanon and Palestine. If I can capitulate Palestine really quick before they join a faction, then I can turn them into Israel and make that my puppet so they can run through their industrial focus tree, and then I'll have to annex them. It's hard to annex puppets. It's a pain, but if I make them completely independent, well, I suppose I could use them as a backup for later, but I'm trying to bring resources in the war if I'm going to have a chance of winning. So I could just force ideology, create a communist Israel, and play as them. If I lose, it's a little... Iraq is going the path where they're going to create a small faction, the Arab League. That's perfect for me because they can't join the US faction if they're in their own faction. The US won't guarantee them because they're already at war. So I can definitely capitulate Iraq when I have the military strength to do that effectively. Most of my military is in Norway right now. But I should be able to mop up Jordan, Lebanon fairly easily, defend the ports. There's really no US faction stuff anywhere near in range right now, though. So I can just run rampant across the stuff here. Nations will join, but, the ports, they'll just be governments in exile in DC. The place that's really dangerous is Iceland attacking the Norwegian coast. And yet, if I want a prayer here, just checking the time. If I want a prayer of winning, I can't be too conservative. I probably need to push relatively quickly, although these guys still probably have some... I did... Some of you may hate that I did, but I did check their focus to progress because they don't like giving up. They have one more focus kind of build slots. Sweden has absolutely none. So a good thing would be to push through northern here, because even once they capitulate, they'll still be in a faction. The troops won't just disappear. So I need to take the northern up London and then push into Sweden, work on Sweden as fast as I can. Also, I can besiege and wait a little bit before I capitulate it. So maybe they'll add that last focus, which is a couple dockyards. I could swap to playing as Norway. Oh yeah, here's another nation that will survive this war. No matter what, there are 4 communist nations that should probably survive. The UK, they went their British communist alternative, so they actually won't attack the US on this one, so they'll be safe. So there will be England, Catalonia, the Czech rump state, Karelia, and Denmark. Denmark is probably the most interesting of those, because it'll get a lot of its focus tree back after it gets independence. And of course, actually doesn't even matter if they get independence. Well, they'll declare independence if the Norwegians fight them on it, they can still get their focus tree back, and they can still actually run the next focus afterwards. Just show you guys what I'm talking about. They do this. Once they have enough self-governance support, then they do this. They can do this even when they're or. Boom. They'll get their focus tree back. I think they actually get it from the one above that. Let's double. Yeah, this just helps them to subjugate. Easier time liberating, changing government, or even subjugating. So it reduces the war score. They need to get all sorts of stuff at peace conferences. It's, I think, a permanent bonus, which is nice. But this will give them back a lot of their focus tree. I think, well, I know they did continue the whatever the industrial development, but I think they also chose policy of disarmament, which leads to a stronger economy in the long run. I'm not sure if their military capacities would be as great. I don't know what they did in terms of the social stability branch either. But I'll find out if I swap to playing as them. I'm leaning towards Denmark. Although there also is Karelia. It's not just a province and risk. The Karelian People's Republic. I may, since I'm kind of playing as an ideology here and I chose a real weak nation, I may swap and off camera try and get Karelia to handle their affairs a little better. Like, have they even done ideological loyalty? No. They have very low import manpower, so they should. Maybe get them start turning their nation around. Because if I don't want to play as England, and I hate playing as England often because they start with so many ships and a lot of them are annoying garbage. I don't know. I've never been a fan of starting with a huge navy. I'd rather build one up. I like navies that I built from the ground up. So if I'm going to do anything that's even viable, kind of co-playing is doing a little bit to, but until I pick which I'm going to play, getting Karelia a little bit to get its affairs in order in Denmark. I won't be swapping too often, but anyways, let's see. Oh yeah, I need to focus for a sec. Okay, supply. Now, this is the supply network for the Norwegian peoples. I mean, capitalist Norway. I've almost pushed them out of the mountains in the north, actually. Some of that left. If I can take this hub, looks like it's forest, in Uppland and yeah, I could also grab Overrune for some factories and manpower. But if I can push them out of this hub, I'll effectively cut off any supply to any troops that are hanging out there in the mountains, and I can start just bypassing them. There'll be some river crossings, but push east into Swedish territory. Start taking that from them. Don't have any destroyers. Well, this is all nice. I guess I'm trying to get down that line so that I'll have the star bonuses and the mine lane bonus by the time I even build any destroyers, starting with mine layers, because there's no actual threat of convoy raiding right now. Although, shoot, I'm gonna have supplies come out here. The American Navy can certainly mess with the Iberian coast area. Oh yeah, they're doing that. It's not better there. This will lead to a really long way around for some things, but well, no, it'll go all the way here. That'll actually be closer to America's coast. I can't do that. Let's areas I definitely don't want convoys going. Stay away from America, and where they can easily raid. Hudson Bay is obvious. Well, are there any naval hubs there? No, I guess if they make it that far. Denmark Strait. It's actually safer. Nope. You would think it's safer there, but there's so many ships raiding the English Channel. Who's even protecting this area? The English Channel, I don't know. This could be from based in Sweden. So actually going around the western approaches is probably safer. And swing up the Norwegian Sea into the Norwegian coast. This is going to be a roundabout, and I probably need to pull some convoys off the market. I have too many anyways, though it gets me Lend-Lease. Getting what I can. Belarus is already under Russian occupation. Belarusian Socialist Republic. Or they finished their focus tree. So they should be doing is probably just saving up political power. The AI is terrible with technology sharing if they really want to run a focus. Otherwise, they should be, because they can still tech while, basically in exile. All right. I know about my tremendous resource shortages. The game doesn't need to remind me. Though I did want to make sure. Yeah. Aleppo. So looking at map this, for a long time, these three main cities, Deir el-Zur, Aleppo, and Damascus, were actually controlled, while these two by rebel forces with Assad's civil war. Yeah, now Trump has betrayed the Syrian Democratic Forces, and he's came out in favor of this former ISIS guy as leader of the country, which I wasn't too fond of the Syrian Democratic Forces when groups like Freedom House were using them, which is Freedom House is funded by the National Endowment for Democracy, which is funded by the CIA. NED is very partial government agency. Freedom House claims to be independent, but it's not. And there was actually an article, Freedom House, a portrait of a pass-through. They in turn fund other organizations that, it's part of this whole CF influence network. But the U.S. has stopped doing this, so now they can legitimately fight for democracy, and some of them are anarchists and socialists. And, so now I hope they win, now that Trump has shown his true colors and is, and the U.S. government is siding with someone who will just get them, oppress the population of oil. Unfortunately, that means they'll probably lose. But if they do win, then yay to the people who are actually fighting for democracy there against Assad and against the Trump puppet. Anyways, it's just Ukraine that the CIA always co-ops what could be good movements, but the U.S. government inevitably betrays people that think they can trust it. And then, all right, probably don't want to risk a surprise naval invasion of Bergen, but whoa, that's a lot of Spanish divisions here. 4 of them. I don't even need this to guard against naval invasions. I can definitely. And Stavanger is not the victory point that I'm going to risk pulling both of these divisions for a push. It's no supply where I need it to be there. Two divisions, even the mountains, might be easier, and then come swing through this way, try and cut those guys off. Enough divisions here, though. And apparently it's far from supplies, so maybe I don't want divisions there. That's... They're gonna need planning. They're gonna need their own little microfront. Can't quite cut these guys off. So I can turn that into one heck of a salient. Right. This guy is getting to be quite skilled. I'm not sure. Well, no, camouflage expert's probably pretty good now because there's. Oh, they've cut back on their air support. There were a lot of aircraft here before. I'll give ground crews to the handful of friendly Spanish fighters, all 9 of them. Trying to contest the skies, it makes almost no difference, but whatever. Right to then. Right. I've got max base stability, 100% ruling party popularity. To be very unethical in raiding and banning. Banned the monarchists, raided the fascists, and... Well, actually, did I even do any anti-democratic raids? I'm not sure I did. I think I didn't because the nationalists got rid of it. And the fascists are legitimately terrible. Feel always slightly bad about the monarchists since the opposite monarchies of the Middle East are really brutal. Okay, and more than anything, it's about for the revolution. Oh yeah! So, you know, I'll forget about this later. This is not ideal. Maybe I'll mention it in the next video again. But we've been here before with Fascism America. I was watching Tad Sturmer's channel. I really recommend checking out. But he was talking about the Federalists and what sometimes shorthanded is the Alien Sedition Acts. But the Alien Enemies Act, the Alien Friends Act, the Naturalization Act, the Sedition Act. Basically, John Adams was like full-on fascism before there was fascism. And the Federalists were beating newspaper owners and throwing people in jail for criticizing them. And, well, no law against criticizing the Vice President Jefferson, who was of the other party, because back then they would have split tickets where the guy who didn't, like, wherever the person who didn't win the presidency become the vice president, it was a very different system in some ways. Yeah, America almost became just a brutal dictatorship in like 1796. But then John Adams alienated a lot of the populace. He was soundly defeated in 1800 in the elections, but there was a lot of resistance because it wasn't enough just to wait for the elections to undermine this. States like Virginia and Kentucky passed resolutions against abusive federal authority. It really was abusive federal authority. Deportations, victimization of immigrants, victimization of anyone who spoke against them in the media, beating up protesters. It was everything that's happening now. We've been here before. Of course, back then the U.S. was young, and people, I think, wouldn't take any shit in a way that nowadays, I think people are too comfortable, and they don't have the vigor of, the young republic where they take it for granted, and so we may lose our democracy because people aren't willing to stand up and resist the same way they were back then. And that's not to... Oh, I can delete this. It's visible now. That's not to idolize the past. Jefferson was a legitimately terrible human being, for instance, but who raped his slave. That was very common. People forcing themselves on slave women. It was horrendous. But Jefferson wasn't the entire Democratic Republican Party. This is what became the modern Democratic Party before they were so vile, as they later became, because of slavery and because of standing in favor of it as the Whigs, and then eventually the Republicans be against it. Ted Sturmer talks about that too, and he has a lot of good things to say about the radical Republicans. And when the Republican Party first formed, back when it was the party of Lincoln, which is not today, it is more the party of Jefferson and it's more the Republican part of Democratic Republican. Anyways, Here's another naval battle. Oh boy, that's which Spain is which? Frank Jack Fletcher. That sounds like an American. USS Skipjack. Yep, these are American subs. And these are Spanish subs. But these are Norwegian People's Republic destroyers fighting these. And they've done a little damage to some of these. They haven't sunk anything, but cool. Probably do a better job with the naval game myself, but I wanted to bring Syria in, and Syria would be completely ineffective in AI hands, so I'm buying trains from Czechoslovakia. That's why there's no factory progress. Fortunately, my factories will just end up in US hands eventually. Can't hold them off forever. But right now, it won't be until they till the Central Powers stupidly decide to attack them. Austria is a focus; they'll do it. That's when the U.S. will roll up the Central Powers. Central Powers are actually beating the British Communist alternative, and they'll probably occupy France. Then the U.S. will land here, liberate it, air quote, march through, and then I won't be able to hold the American army when it marches down through Turkey. That's how they'll beat me eventually. Or maybe they do a naval invasion by the time they reach Crete or something. But for now, I'm safe in Syria. Take advantage of what time I have got. These guys are moving north. So this guy, yeah, he's got camouflage expert, which damage reduction. I don't know if the air superiority bonus reduction actually functions. 9 days ago, battle in Telmark. Generals. Let's see. This guy, I wish there were more portraits, generic, is Bean Halili. Okay, so he's the unyielding defender. Not so great, actually. I think the idea was to train him up. And I have meticulous prep now, so maybe he'll gain trait points. Could do this guy. The counterattack thing wasn't happening. I think I may want to swap him for the offensive doctrine guy. This guy helped the divisions fight a little better, and he's about to level up. Wait, I can't for some... Oh, no, they have the same name. Ahmad, he is. Okay, sorry. This guy is where? Tafik bin Halili. Must be his... Is in Aleppo. Army of Aleppo. But they're not really in Aleppo. They're... Or I'll call it Army of Jordan. I'll call this the Syrian... South Syrian Army Group. So eventually maybe up one further north. This is entrenchment. Super entrenchment, bro. Except they're not going to be entrenching here. So why do I have this? They're going to be attacking. Possibly against no resistance. Possibly unexpected. Resistance. You never know. Someone with defense skill could be useful. In case they have to break through. This guy is actually the best for a shock. Actually, should he maybe be in charge of this army group? Yeah, once this guy levels up, swap him. I don't want to put my best people in charge. That's probably why I have him. Alright, you know what? I can... If I encounter resistance, whatever, I'll swap later. Save my best generals for here. think there's anyone I want to promote to field marshal right now to go do that. Not really. What I should eventually do is promote. These guys to defend the port, I guess. Yeah, that's kind of dumb. More likely to push into Lebanon. And I shouldn't put them where they drain the train network. Okay, so they'll be Damascus. Oh, these guys could be a source of a general. Pretty sure I'm even short on basic infantry equipment. Somewhat. Yeah, whatever. Could use a little bit of Army XP. The multiplier, I think I sent a lot of equipment to Communist China. Wrong China. Where am I sending them right now? Some weapons. Some tiny number. This is like maintenance levels. Sorry, anything I could add in? Rocket artillery, no. Oh. Oh yeah, there's also the People's Republic of China, although eventually it doesn't, I don't know if China is going to join the US faction. If they don't, then maybe the American troops won't come in here, though maybe they'll. Docking rates. Sweden, Finland, Norway. Yeah, they'll probably eventually give the United States military access, and there'll be American troops there, and I'll be crushed. Okay. Interestingly, the Army Logistics guy reduces equipment loss due to training, which is nice. I chose an offense specialist because it was mostly defending and helped get crits and enemies. It does lead to faster moving fronts too. Defense is better when attacking with infantry. Could consider. I'll eventually need women in the workforce, that's right. And what else? Don't feel like there's something else I was going to be doing alongside it. 100 political power. Maybe. Oh, well, I can do the captain of ministry. That's actually probably important. Oh, there's going to be industrial integration eventually, but yeah. Captain of industry. It doesn't show up, but this actually costs more support now. They didn't update the tooltip to show it for the first time. Plus it. Oh no, they might drive off one of the Under organized divisions there. On division, still trying to get up to regular. Preparing for the final attack towards Oslo. It's great and all, but here, got divisions that can push here. No reason to wait on that. It's going to level up soon. We'll see what he gets for traits. 2 field marshal may be better than any level 1. Yeah, I might want to swap him for the guy who gives a 10% breakthrough. That's very, very nice. Let's see. Fortunately, these 22 divisions are really all I have to work with in the Americas because it's going to be too dangerous to send anything by sea. Like, they'll get sunk by American subs, very likely. These subs don't get sunk often by the stores, though, sometimes. Okay, organizing and planning. The world tension isn't really decaying because apparently world tension doesn't decay by a nation, anything they did to cause it while they're still at war. So a lot of the stuff just doesn't go away. And the game is still broken in this version with like lots of little nations joining a war, and you get way more world tension than you should with the war breaking out just because of faction being a lot of small nations instead of a couple big ones. Of course, bigger nations do give more world tension, but usually less in total than... Huh, you guys are going all way up where there's no supply for them. Alright. Tanks. Not great. Not great. I do have, oh, I haven't done this yet. Infantry anti-tank 2. It's doing rocket artillery upgrade. And rocketry and jet technologies. This includes rocket artillery, though. That's the hidden secret. Now, it's not nearly as good as, you know, using that bonus for boom. Centrifugal jets, whatever, but this will have an immediate impact, so I may actually want to run rocketry effort and use it to get 1943 rocket artillery without a debuff. Oh yeah, okay, I see I was going to do this. Trucks, maybe? Quite possibly. No, not after this. What was next? Anti-tank, maybe? Maybe a level mechanical. Not likely.